Quincy News, Snippy City Council meeting chair. Second week in a row. For the second week in a row, the Quincy City Council held a public hearing, and for the second week in a row, local citizens lined up to give council members ears full. Wicked full, as a matter of fact. This week's hearing was over Quincy Mayor Thomas P. Koch's second attempt to extend a ground lease of city land for use by a high-end golf course, a lease that has roughly 30 years left to go before it runs out, by an additional 50 years as well as without putting the lease up for bid, among other anomalies, and so doing a serious solid for major contributors to the Mayor Koch's campaign fund. After all, we are talking Quincy and thus the true Quincy way. Fortunately for council members, those in favor of the proposed sweet deal went first. Curiously, however, while some who spoke in favor of the connected peeps who are seeking the lease extension were North Quincy High School and Quincy High School golf team members, many to perhaps most of the others who spoke in favor noted that they are from out of town. In fact, it was noted to QuincyQuarry News by observers that many of those speaking on behalf of the favored leaseholder were reading from prepared text, with much of what was put on the record sounding, well, similar in timbre. That, and it was also opined to the quarry that perhaps they were on the clock. Granted, the golf course operator is generous to a number of worthy causes and such. However, such is not of prime interest to the lease extension. Rather, what is germane is why extend a lease with over 30 years to go, and if the lessee has been a good tenant. Conversely, criticisms tendered by local residents and typically taxpayers addressed how the lessee had variously failed to honor various lease obligations over the years. In all honesty, no compelling reasons were offered to justify extending the current lease, which has over a generation to instead go until solidly into the 22nd century and thus working out to over 3 generations' time for what is ultimately family business. Conversely, criticisms tendered by local residents and typically taxpayers addressed how the lessee had variously failed to honor various lease obligations over the years. Further, one public hearing commenter only properly noting that not only had the lessee not offered compensation for the shortcomings, typical practice given defaults on consequential lease obligations is to terminate of the lease or at least notice that the lease would not be renewed upon its expiration. Further, as was the case at the public hearing last week, the council member chairing the public hearing this week on multiple occasions becomes Snippy herself when commenters civilly posed only reasonable questions to the council, and to which the chair then threatened to close the hearing and without offering answers. In fact, the meeting chair did gavel the public hearing closed in a final fit of pique during the last person's endeavoring to offer up comment. The council then shifted to the posing of comments by councillors wishing to pay homage to the powers that be, if not also troll for new gigs after next fall's city council elections. Particularly amusing was how the city council president called the land largely used by the golf course's well-heeled patrons a dump, rather than the well-tended bucolic open space that it is. In any event, to make up one's own mind about how things went down, QuincyQuarry News strongly recommends that the quarry's ever-growing legions of loyal readers stream the video of the public hearing and make their own.